Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I have an amazing woman to talk to today. Her name is, and let me pronounce this properly, Bhaji Illuminati.
You
Uh,
got it.
Got it? Okay, awesome. She is the Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Sales at Centrifuge. Baji, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Really glad to be here. And I'm glad you gave me the heads up on your outfits so we could coordinate today.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I wore suits for many years and now I'm wearing hoodies. So kind of the
You've
reverse.
transformed. We always like to joke that at Centrifuge, we're bringing together the suits and the hoodies. So we go so far as at some of the events that we host, we have our team put their jackets on over the hoodies. They can take them off based on the conversations and the people they're talking to throughout the day.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's start. Looking forward to this. Ask everybody the same question to start out with. Get amazing answers. I'll ask you first, what is your background and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in early stage tech companies, usually when we're bringing technology to transform antiquated industries. So started my career at Taulia, a supply chain finance company that helps connect buyers and suppliers to pay their invoices early. I was the 10th employee there. I grew with the team till about 450, ultimately went on to get acquired by SAP for $1 billion. So really good proof point in the power of that technology. From there, hopped to a couple different early stage companies. So usually marketplace tech, usually first person on the go-to-market team, working really closely with the founders to understand the unique position in the market, how we're different, develop that go-to-market strategy of how we can uniquely create these new categories and educate audiences on how technology can transform the way that they do their business day to day. So that has led me into product management. It's led me into SaaS. I spent a stint at a consumer app on the retail side, really growing access to connect small businesses with their customers. And then I landed at Centrifuge about 2 years ago. The Centrifuge founding team is the same founding team as Taulia. So I had stayed connected with them throughout my career. I went and explored different areas. They started with Centrifuge trying to rebuild a lot of the success and achieve even greater scale and efficiency through blockchain rails than what they had done in Web2. And they tapped me and asked me to come and join the team because they recognized that at Centrifuge, we'd been building since 2017, really heads down, really focused on the technology and getting our product to a state where it can be used for bringing traditional financial products on chain. So taking, age-old process that's developed and used and loved on Wall Street and improving it, making it more efficient, making it more transparent, creating 24/7 settlements. So bringing this scary new technology into, again, an antiquated industry that sometimes can be resistant to change. So why my background made sense for this role is because it requires a lot of education, a lot of communication, a lot of content marketing around how does this work? How is it safe? How is it built in a compliant way? How can we distill what's very complex and very technical and make it applicable to a new audience where they can understand the benefit that this technology can bring to their day-to-day? So a large component of the work I'd done in creating new categories, driving content marketing and education, building out thought leadership was really applicable to what we needed at Centrifuge. And then beyond that, there was this huge push to bring the community together. So we wanted to make real world assets and tokenization more mainstream than just a narrow crypto niche area. So that meant bringing together large players in the space, the Coinbases and the Circles, and folks who have already a much greater reach than us, and elevating the message overall through bringing the communities together. Since my time here, my role has evolved. So started as just focused on the marketing side, then took over the sales side, and started focusing more holistically on overall go-to-market and how we can really bring Centrifuge to the next level.
Very cool. So, in that sales role, what do you see as the vision for the future for Centrifuge?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two sides of the audience that we're selling into. There's the asset managers. So that's the BlackRocks of the world. Janus Henderson is one of our key partners, Fidelity, PIMCO. They're looking at ways that they can use blockchain technology to tokenize their funds and make them available to global audiences, fractionalize ownership, create instant settlement, 24/7 trading ability. And create greater efficiencies with how they run their fund. So that's one side of the audience we're selling into, is those large asset managers. On the other side of the audience is investors. So right now, the investor profile is primarily users of crypto. So people who are on chain already. There's about $200 billion in stable coins right now, which is a huge opportunity, because if people are holding stable coins, they're not earning yield. So that's an easy conversation where we say, put that idle capital in a money market fund instead, earn 5% from exposure to tokenized treasuries, and then atomically transfer it back to a payment stable coin when you're ready to make that transfer. So that's the opportunity right now on the on-chain investor side. And then longer term, more traditional investors and allocators and family offices and pension funds, and the capital that's off chain will ultimately come on chain when there's better on ramps and greater access to interesting tokenized investments on chain for cheaper and easier than they can access in traditional financial markets. So those are the two primary audiences. And then, I'll throw in a third, because everyone's thinking about it with some of the regulatory tailwinds in the US, but of course there's this retail audience as well. And that's where it gets pretty interesting in the longer term, once there's more clarity, because it really realizes the vision of this technology from the beginning. So it democratizes access to great financial products by lowering investment minimums and lowering barriers to entry for your average retail investor to just put a couple $100 into this really great product that they might not have had access to before.
Yeah, I see a real shift in the commoditized, in markets that used to be traditional finance that became commoditized and are now going away. Like where I used to work, like insurance, like AIG, so insurance, and I know you're bringing real world assets on chain, and you've had some success doing that. How can you help these TradFi companies be successful in the future, and what have been the keys to your success?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways, specifically on the TradFi side, that we've been able to help them be successful is through a unique approach we have. So Centrifuge, as most people know us, is a decentralized horizontal infrastructure layer that any asset manager can build on. It supports any type of asset, any type of fund structure, any regulatory jurisdiction. Which is the future. And that's what we want to have, is that decentralized open protocol. But we recognize with new technology, there is also challenging, processes to put in place to adopt it and to use it and to leverage it. So what we did is we created an asset manager that's called Anemoy. So it's vertically integrated. It is able to spin up regulated funds, and we're able to use this as an on-ramp for TradFi. So that's one of the ways that we're working with our partner Janus Henderson, for instance, is they first came on as a sub-advisor to an Anemoy fund. So it means a lower barrier to entry, lower upfront startup costs, lower capital and resource requirement from their side to get started, but they're able to test it out, prove the value, get access to this on-chain world, and then ultimately go on to create their own funds. So we see that regulated fund structure, the sub-advisor entry point, as a really good starting point for a lot of these TradFi folks that we're working with. And that's allowed us to be successful with a lot of these partnerships and has allowed us to help get greater adoption from the institutional managers that we're talking to on the sell side.
I would think, and I could be wrong, but I would think that there's lots and lots of opportunity in pensions, because that's something that has been really damaged throughout the last couple of decades, right? So how do you see them being able to embrace and adopt not just Bitcoin, but other cryptocurrencies and blockchain for people's future pensions?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think of crypto and blockchain overall, there's the two sides of it. There's Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, which are an incredible investment opportunity, but also highly volatile. And then there's blockchain technology, which is the backbone that's powering the future of finance. And then with the blockchain side of it, that's where we're really focused on spinning up more traditional funds. So a tokenized treasury fund, a CLO fund, a variety of security tokens, which are considered, crypto tokens as well, but they're regulated, and making those available in the same markets that the cryptocurrencies are available. So with pensions and with allocators who want to get exposure to on-chain yields, we view the products that Centrifuge are bringing as a great way to have a more holistic portfolio where you might have some exposure to Bitcoin, but then you also have exposure to a money market fund that's earning you a stable 6 or 8 or 10% yield so that you can hedge some of that volatility and that risk.
I think we're seeing a very interesting dichotomy in the market right now. You got some people, institutions are celebrating that we're in a bull market. Everybody's talking about real world assets, right? You have traders who are in meme coins who are making bank, and you have all the retail people, retail investors who are long-term investors who are getting crushed. You know, I don't understand the market right now, but it seems to shift more towards RWAs on the institutional side. What do you think the future is, and why are they favorable while every rest of the market isn't?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, there's a couple layers to unpack there. One, the meme cycle is real, and people can come in and they can make a lot of money, but they can also get scammed and they can also lose a lot of money. And interestingly, there was some good data that came out around the Trump coin, and they that launch of that coin on-ramped a significant number of new users that had never participated in crypto trading before. But then what they saw when they dug a couple levels deeper was that they didn't do anything after that. So they didn't get excited and start looking at other coins or start doing research or start investing in other areas. They parked their money in Trump coin and probably lost quite a lot of money, or hopefully didn't. But the question there is, does that actually bring positive sentiment to the industry? Does that bring new users, and does that bring new excitement, and does that bring the energy that we want to institutionalize the work that we're doing? So there's varying views and opinions on that cycle. But what we view is that with the volatility and with the craziness, it highlights the importance of stability and real yield and the true work that we're doing. So generally, like the marketer in me says, all PR is good PR. So there's energy and there's excitement and there's conversation happening around what is crypto? Why is everyone talking about it? How do I get involved? What does this mean? So there's that pull of it being talked about in mainstream media and it being covered across various news cycles. So the work that we have and the focus that we have and the sentiment generally shifting on chain is that fundamentals will outweigh speculation. So there will always be the level of speculation through crypto. People love that. But there's also just this greater recognition that these products that are around for the long term, that are safe and stable, will have staying power. Paired on top of that with the more institutional side of it, which you mentioned, and seeing regulatory tailwinds and really positive news coming from the Trump administration and a lot of the new folks that he put in place, is again back to my decoupling of the cryptocurrencies and that trading world compared to the blockchain technology that these asset managers and the institutions are using. So on the latter end, on the institutional side, there is a renewed excitement and there's a very strong vibe shift around what we expect will come out of the US, and a shifting movement away from regulation by enforcement and towards regulatory clarity, and a bubbling excitement of bringing innovation back to the US and really unlocking and encouraging moving fast and once again becoming the global leader. So, long answer short is there will always be a place for speculation in crypto, and that keeps it fun. Is that how we're going to on-ramp the next billion users that will bring this transformative technology back into Wall Street? No, but players like Centrifuge and many others in the space are just staying focused on the fundamentals and building the technology that we know will have staying power.
Very nice. I like that. Focus on the fundamentals. I'm holding my fundamental coins. I'm not trading them away for things. But yeah, 800,000 people lost about $3 billion investing in Trump coin. So you hear about the few that made bank getting in the first 5 minutes, but you don't hear about those 800,000 stories.
Exactly.
But like you said, we're excited about Trump saying that he wants to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. Now, how do you see that as being achievable, and what is that path to be able to accomplish that lofty goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So already he's made steps towards enabling that path to accomplish the lofty goal. We see the new CFTC chair, the SEC chair, the SEC commissioner, the formation of the digital asset working group, led by David Sachs. And interestingly, the thought of him being AI and crypto, I think, is also a positive signal for the industry, because there's great potential of those two technologies merging together, and having someone with that more holistic view is pretty powerful. So to me, that signifies bipartisan support. We're seeing support from Republicans and Democrats. It signifies emergence of the two most transformative technologies with AI and crypto. And then the recognition across many different regulatory bodies, and the way that they're working together shows collaboration in a way that is unprecedented in how we've structured these types of projects and initiatives to move forward. Beyond that, the kind of structure in place that will enable this innovation and making the United States the crypto capital of the world, as he says, we're already seeing some progress. So the Senator Haggerty stablecoin legislation that he suggested looks like it'll shake out to be similar to what we're seeing in Europe. And interestingly, one of the things he mentioned when he was talking about his view for it is that he wants the legislation to increase demand for US Treasuries. So that goes back to the work Centrifuge is doing and BlackRock and a lot of the folks focused on tokenized treasuries, is thinking about stablecoins as a payment vehicle or also a yield-bearing asset, and then using blockchain to enable atomic transfer between the two. So when it's in transit, it's a traditional stable coin. When it's idle, it's a yield coin, and you can switch between those two automatically. So I think there's some really cool potential that comes with that stablecoin bill specifically. And that's where we'll see a lot of the innovation in the short term, just because stablecoins are pretty easy to understand and can be adopted much faster from some of the banks and the fintechs that we're talking to. So there's a lot of speculation that, you hear people say every bank will have a stablecoin strategy by the end of 2025, and we're going to start seeing that adoption very, very quickly. So excited to see the progress there. There's, the end of choke point 2.0. So the ability for crypto companies to bank in the United States seems so basic, but so critical to bring this innovation back onshore. And then another exciting outcome already is the conversation around the special purpose broker-dealer license. So creating one specifically for crypto, enabled for what we need as crypto companies, and not trying to fit our use case into the existing licensing. So those three pillars we see as a very strong signal of pretty quick adaption, and kind of putting your money where your mouth is in terms of how we're going to see continued evolution and growth from the US. I know everyone was expecting David Sachs to say, Bitcoin strategic reserve, and these are all the crazy things we're doing in his first press conference, but I think it's important that, this area it happens more diligently and is more thoughtful. And of course, anything relating to money is going to require regulation, and we need to do it right so that it is what will shape the rails of how we build for the long term.
You kind of read my mind. Actually, I was going to ask you a follow-up question, and it was going to deal with, actually, I'm going to ask him anyway, about strategic Bitcoin reserves. A lot of the Bitcoin maximalists want only a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Then you have the XRP folks who want XRP to be included. I think it should be an index, that includes also those two, and also Litecoin, Solana, Avalanche, what else? Stellar, a whole bunch that say, okay, these are the ones made in the U.S. This is what we're gonna build. What do you think? What are your company thoughts, and what do you think would be the best option for the country?
As long as there's no fart coin in there, right?
Right.
It's interesting to see how it plays out. In some ways, it seems like that's what Trump is doing with World Liberty Financial, where he's creating that index and putting emphasis on projects and companies that are built in the US. So it really depends. I can see both sides of the aisle. I think ultimately it'll be a slow decision that takes a very long time. I don't see the strategic reserve expanding to become much more than Bitcoin, just because of the market cap and the general global recognition of the power of Bitcoin. But even there, I don't know that I don't have as much confidence as Saylor on how quickly that's going to grow in the US.
Yeah. Plus, Bitcoin is really, there are a few Bitcoin, Litecoin that are actually, from a Austrian economics perspective, that are money. So as opposed to fintech companies,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think the fact that has made headlines for so many months and it's part of the conversation on its own is a really strong signal. It's legitimizing it, it's institutionalizing it, it's getting it in the minds of everyone even outside of the crypto world, which is exactly what we need. We need that greater marketing and education and understanding across the halls of the US.
I agree. So, if the U.S. becomes a crypto hub and you have operations over in Europe and in Singapore, a couple areas of the world where there are strong, sophisticated regulatory frameworks and where you operate. How do you see your companies and your experience dealing in those markets being helpful to the US market as we start to build that out here?
Yeah, I think that, in some ways, the US being late to the game of recognizing the power of this technology and putting in place clear regulation is a benefit because we can learn from what has worked in other jurisdictions. So we look to like the BVIs and Cayman Islands, and they've done a great job on creating guidelines and regulations for issuers. So that's already where our treasury fund is domiciled. It's also where BlackRock's is. So in the BVIs, we recognize this is exactly the process, this is the support we get, and this is how we run a compliant fund. Looking at MiCA in Europe, I think there's already a lot that Haggerty has taken and that we can learn for the stablecoin bill that we implement here based on what's worked with what they're doing in Europe. And then MENA has made incredible progress with ADGM and VARA and how they support tokenized assets. So for us specifically, we are global. We operate in all of those jurisdictions. Our regulated funds are from the BVIs. We have a Irish entity, a European entity. We have some folks in the US like myself. None of our products on the investment side are available to US investors. So early step for us when we see that regulatory clarity, we'll be opening up access to the extent we can to US investors, which is a huge unlock. And then we're keeping a close eye on what it would mean to offer additional products on the asset management side through the US as well. So generally, we look to the jurisdictions that have the clearest guidelines and clarity so that we can have confidence that we're building in the most compliant and safe and investor-friendly way. And if that becomes the US, then that could shift our approach and our strategy.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So over the next couple of years, the RWA market, the institutional adoption market, it's looking pretty strong then, as long as things work out from a regulatory perspective. What if it doesn't?
Very confident.
What if it doesn't?
What if West?
Yeah.
Then we'll keep our funds in the BVIs and our operations in Europe.
Okay.
We'll
right.
head.
Right. I remember when I first got into crypto and I was an overseas ICO advisor, and people told me the only market that matters is the US. So I didn't believe them, but I think it does. I think it's important, that we have clarity here.
Yeah, and I mean, I say that a little flippantly, but it is important. We need Wall Street. We need these asset managers, the biggest asset managers in the world. We need them to feel comfortable adopting this technology. And they won't unless there is a stamp of approval from the US, where most of them are headquartered. So the conversation around different regulation in different jurisdictions should be looked at differently than the general sentiment towards this technology overall, because a lot of, like on the regulated security side and the work that we're doing in the money market funds, if a asset manager had have gotten involved earlier, they wouldn't have been breaking any rules. But there just wasn't that green light on, yes, we want to support this technology, we want to get behind it, and we want you all to innovate. So in a lot of ways, just the positive sentiment, even without like a crazy new regulation that's going to come out in the next year, is enough for there to be more meaningful movement from a lot of these major institutions that we're talking to.
I agree. I that makes a lot of sense. So awesome. So I want to thank you very much for speaking with me today. I enjoyed the conversation. I have one One last question. It's how can people find out more information about Centrifuge, about you, for all the great things that your company is doing? How can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on every social media platform. Follow us on X or LinkedIn. You can find Centrifuge or Anemoy. Both our tech side and the asset management side have respective social media pages. Do give us a follow because we have quite a few exciting announcements coming out over the next couple months. Too bad I can't share them here on the pod, but the audience will be able to see that very soon. And then myself, I'm Bhaji Illuminati, so it's Bhaji on social media. So yeah, I hope to hear from anyone, any questions, any thoughts. I'm always open to having a follow-up conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.